Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Flow, and today we are going to dive really deep into sleep and how we can engineer our sleep to have the best quality of focus and productivity and best quality of life that we can achieve. And sleep is one of those vital, foundational elements in our lives. Because without sleep, we can't function. And I know I'm going to talk about all the science behind all of this and everything, but even without the science, like if you look at your own life and your own experiences, without much sleep, you really can't do anything, right? So we've talked about these focus and flow hierarchies, right? And under the section of biology, which comes first, sleep is actually the foundational element of our biology. And let me give you an example. So for example, if we've only had 1 hour of sleep yesterday, and even though we might be in the optimal ketosis levels and we've had good exercise and we did everything right with our diet and everything else, but if we've only had 1 hour of sleep yesterday, it will impact everything. Like ketosis won't even work anymore. Our energy levels just won't be there because we didn't have enough sleep. So sleep is crucial. It's vital. It is actually foundational for everything else. Focus just simply doesn't work without adequate sleep. So we need sleep. We need sleep not just for focus, but for a great quality of life. And so to mainly put this thing, like sleep is at the very, very bottom of the hierarchy of everything, because it's like the foundations to the entire building. We need to have this in place for everything else to work, because it's not even diet doesn't come before this. Like this comes before everything else. Because with a crappy diet, but with good sleep, we can still get things done. But the vice versa doesn't work. Like if we have no sleep, but we have like a great diet, we can't get things done. Like it's really hard to do so. So sleep is just crucial. This is one of those key components to this whole flow states and the whole focus theories. So let me start off with a story, and this story dates back all the way to 1729 by the name of Jean-Jacques Arthur de Merian. I hope I'm saying that right. And he's a French geophysicist, and he noticed that when he measured these plants leaves tracked the sun's trajectory as it moved across the sky. And he thought this was such a fascinating thing. So it would seem like the plants were following the sun as it would rise and as it would set. And he was especially interested in this specific plant called the Mimosa pudica. And these plants specifically, they would trace the sun, and then at night, they would seem to collapse as if they were wilted. And then when the sun came back up, they would almost magically pop open again. And even Charles Darwin, he called these leaves, or these plants, sleeping leaves. And so before this experiment, it was believed that sunlight triggered the leaves to open even on cloudy days, right? They thought it was the sun that triggered all of this, and that darkness triggered the leaves to close. But what Jean did was a fascinating experiment. He placed the plant in an opaque box, and he did this for 24 hours, and it would be complete, total darkness in the box. So he would leave the plant inside the box, something like this, so that they would have no idea whether it was sunlight out or whether it was dark outside. But then every once in a while, during this 24 hours, Jean would peek inside the box, and he would notice that even without the sun, it opened and it retracted its leaves at the end of the day, as if it was keeping its own time, its own internal time, even without the sun. And they figured out that plants, they have their own internal rhythm. And so they wanted to take this experiment a little bit further, not only on plants, but they wanted to experiment on humans. So in 1938, Professor Nathaniel Kleitman from the University of Chicago and his colleague Bruce Richardson, they conducted an experiment, and they were really dedicated for this one. They were acting as their own human guinea pigs. And so they took some water and some food to last them about 6 weeks. And they took some hospital beds and some measuring device. And they went into a cave, into one of the deepest caves in the world, where they were completely away from sunlight. So no sunlight can be reached in its deepest part. And this cave was the Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. It looks something like this. I know there's artificial light in there, but of course, they did not have any of those lights when they were conducting this experiment. And so they wanted to find out if they got cut off from sunlight and the world, would their biorhythms become erratic or would they stay the same? Meaning, would they wake up and sleep at different times and become very more spontaneous, or would it become more stable? So that's what they wanted to figure out. And so just like the Mimosa pudica plants, they too kept an internal time. They too also had a rhythm, even though they had no idea what time it was inside that cave. So neither Kleiman nor Richardson descended into random spurts of wake and sleep, but instead expressed a predictable and repeating pattern of prolonged wakefulness, about 15 hours, paired with consolidated bouts of about 9 hours of sleep. And this is Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep. But from another finding from this experiment, their sleep cycles were longer than 24 hours. Isn't that interesting? So Bruce Richardson, in his 20s, his sleep cycle was about 26 to 28 hours. And Nathaniel Kleiman, in his 40s, his sleep cycle was a little bit closer, but a little longer than 24 hours. And now the newest science shows that our internal circadian rhythm is about 24 hours and 15 minutes. So what does this all mean, right? What does this biorhythm and our internal rhythm clock, what does this mean for us? So maybe our bodies are made to sleep more than we think. And some of us, and especially mainstream media, can teach us that we only need to sleep about 5 to 6 hours, but maybe we need more than we think. And maybe we need to adhere to these specific cycles. So as I have mentioned before, our biology has a hierarchy. Like our flow has a hierarchy, our focus has a hierarchy. Specifically, our biology also plays a role in this hierarchy. And this is the biology hierarchy in my personal experience. First of all, sleep comes first, no matter what. The number one thing for this entire thing is sleep. I think even if you get adequate amounts of sleep and you have a crappy diet, you don't even do keto, you don't even exercise or do anything else, you can at least be able to focus to some degree. It is that important. So sleep comes first, and then it could be diet and keto, and then maybe exercise. So that is the hierarchy. And a lot of these concepts for this lesson, by the way, stems from this book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. It is an incredible, eye-opening book. I highly recommend it if you want more information. But of course, I did the hard work for you, so I extracted all the good stuff, all the actionable stuff into this lesson. But if you want to be an overachiever, you can absolutely read this. I really recommend this book. This is an incredible book, by the way. All right, circadian rhythm. What is it? It is our biological inner clock inside our bodies. It is endogenously created, meaning from the inside, and it's controlled by a thing called a sleep pressure. So we're going to get really deep into this stuff. Let's get into the science of sleep. And it's run by a clock in the middle of our brains, known as the suprachiasmatic nucleus. And one big aspect of our circadian rhythm is actually temperature. It's not just light, it's not just sunlight, light like the sunlight and darkness. We have a certain cycle of body temperature that we process through every single day. So it looks something like this. When we are awake, our temperature seems to rise, and then when we sleep, our temperature drops. Our body temperature goes through this cycle, whether we sleep or not. So it creates like this pressure to sleep. Even though we might not have gotten sleep, it still creates this pressure. So our circadian rhythm is extremely reliable. It's almost like a sine wave. We go through this rhythm no matter what. No matter if we are trapped in a cave or if we are inside of a box or if we're outside. And this rhythm, circadian rhythm, is called the process C. So just like a sine wave, it is that reliable. Our body goes through these kinds of rhythms. And adenosine is the pressure to sleep. And this is also known as process S. And so there are two things to note here, right? So process C, which again is the circadian rhythm, it's like the sine wave, and process S is that pressure to sleep. And it builds up throughout the day, increasing the urge to go to sleep. So it looks something like this if you put both of those together. So process C, circadian rhythm, and process S is that sleep pressure. And as you can see, the smaller the distance between process C and process S, the greater your desire to be awake. If you can see on this graph, that the smaller the gap between process C and process S, then your desire to be awake is stronger. It's hard for you to, go to sleep in these periods because you're so wide awake because of these circadian rhythms. The larger the distance between process C and process S, the greater your desire to sleep. So the larger the gap between process C and process S, the more you want to sleep. So as you can see in this graph, the circadian rhythm, it has a little dip while the pressure to sleep goes up and up, and then you have this real deep desire to be able to go to sleep, right? You really want to go to sleep at this point. So process C, circadian rhythm, pays no attention to whether or not you have slept. It's a rhythm that rises and falls no matter what. So even if you sleep or not, you will still go through these cycles. Because of this, there is a period, if not slept, that the body can catch a second wind. So you know how sine waves, they repeat, right? So if you do not sleep during your strongest urge to sleep, the sine wave will rise back up, and then that gap will close and it will get smaller, right? So there is like the second wind that you'll get if you haven't slept in 24 hours or so. So apart from internal signals and temperature, external signals that trigger sleep is also light. Okay, this is pretty obvious. But the suprachiasmatic nucleus, it uses light as information to send to the brain to signal what cycle it is currently in. And when light enters into the brain, and when darkness enters into the brain at that, then we have something called melatonin. It's a biochemical in the body that is generated with the cycles of your circadian rhythm. And it communicates with the suprachiasmatic nucleus to tell you when it is dark, when it is night, when you have to go to sleep, and when you have to be awake. It is the sleepy chemical that begins to rise at night, causing us to want to go to sleep. And it's usually signaled by, again, darkness and light. And it looks something like this. So melatonin is usually released at nighttime when the sun goes down. It triggers into our brain, specifically the suprachiasmatic nucleus, that it's time to go to sleep. But here's the thing. Melatonin is just a trigger for sleep. It does not actually participate in sleep. So Matthew Walker, he says, melatonin simply provides the official instruction to commence the event of the sleep, but does not participate in the sleep race itself. For these reasons, melatonin is not a powerful sleeping aid in and of itself, at least not for healthy, non-jet-lagged individuals. So with that being said, melatonin pills are usually low in quality. And again, it's not a great sleeping aid. It just triggers that urge to go to sleep, but it doesn't participate in the sleep. So it can contain a lot of lower or higher amounts of melatonin than that is actually stated on the box. So it only triggers the sleep, but it doesn't help with the sleep. But I guess if you have to, if you're like jet lagged or something, then you can use melatonin to trigger that sleep. But again, it does not help with the sleep. So you want your sleep to be as natural as possible without like these supplements or anything like that. And I will talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But for now, try to get natural sleep. So melatonin, don't use it as a sleeping aid. And the problem with light, right, in modern society is that we have light everywhere, even at night, especially at night, I would say. So it can hurt our quality of sleep at night because it triggers our brain to still think that it is daytime, especially in the form of blue light. All of our like devices, our laptops and our phones, they emit these strong blue lights, which really trigger to the brain that it is still daytime. So that is why we might have a big epidemic of sleeplessness because of these devices that emit such a big amount of blue light. And so we want to minimize light exposure at night to get the deepest sleep possible. And we want to have that healthy circadian rhythm, right? And I know we are all glued to our phones and we need our phones to get to sleep. We have to watch a movie before we get to sleep and everything. But there are some hacks to sleeping and to construct a great sleep for ourselves, which I am going to cover throughout this lesson. Okay, so stick around so you can uncover some of these hacks. All right, sleep chronotypes. So circadian rhythms are slightly different from person to person. Not everybody is the same, actually. And it's something that plays a genetic role. Some people are evening types, some are morning types, and this is all linked to a gene called PER3 gene. And so I know there are many different types of people out there, right? Some people prefer to wake up earlier in the morning and it just seems more natural to them. and some people like to sleep in later during the day. And this is actually hardwired into our genes. So it's not like some people are more lazier than others. It's just part of their genes and how it is hardwired into their biology to wake up at a different time. And so those people that wake up earlier than everybody else, and it just seems very natural for them. And then there are those people who want to sleep in until like afternoon or something like that. And this is actually, it's very genetic. It's actually hardwired into our genes to function this way. So everybody is different. And so morning types have a longer strain of the PER3 gene, and evening types have a shorter PER3 gene. The PER3 gene also determines how much sleep you also need. And earlier types usually need more sleep than night types. And usually night owls, or they're also known as wolves, but they have often been criticized as lazy, right? Because the modern society that we have today, the work schedules is a little biased towards the early birds, because typically in the US it's like a 9 to 5, right? And then we also have a commute, so we have to wake up probably at like 7 or so. And even though these night owl types, they're not wired to function this way, but then society forces them to wake up a lot earlier than what they're naturally inclined to do. So it's not really fair for them, right? Because they're genetically programmed this way, but then we are labeling them as like these lazy types when that is just not part of their genetic programming. So it's a little unfair. So early birds do have an advantage to this type of modern society type of scheduling. So the truth is, it's not their fault, right? It's not the night owl's fault. They're just not genetically developed for morning activity. So we have to keep that in mind. They're not lazy. They're just genetically wired to wake up at a different time, a later time. All right, so here are the 4 different chronotypes. And this is by Dr. Michael Breus, and he has a book called The Power of One, and you can also check that out. It's all about sleep. And so we have the dolphin, the lion, the bear, and the wolf. So let's take a look at each of these. So let's start off with the bear. So the bear chronotype, it's the majority of us, and I also fall under this category. Sleep and wake according to the sun. We sleep and wake according to the sun, and we are most energetic during daytime, and no problem falling asleep at night. Our productivity peaks mid-morning and dips about mid-afternoon. And bear types need about 8 hours plus of sleep. I like to aim for anywhere from 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And I can function with about 7 hours of sleep. But then where I really get into deep flow states is when I get like 9 hours of sleep. Seriously, when I get like 9 hours of sleep. By the way, 9 hours of sleep is different from 9 hours in bed. Because you might be in bed for 9 hours, but you might not have slept for the total of 9 hours. And you can track this by using an accurate tracker such as the Oura ring, which I will talk about later. But 9 hours for me seems to develop this big, deep focus moments for me. So I can focus for long periods of time when I seem to get about 9 hours. It's a lot easier for me to focus. And some famous bear chronotypes, by the way, is Jeff Bezos. He is a bear, and he is the CEO of Amazon, for those of you who don't know him. And it says that he sleeps about 8 hours or more per night. And so again, more sleep is not being lazy, all right? We need this type of sleep. And it is actually smart to get more sleep because we are recharging our batteries to really have more quality of those focus hours rather than quantity. Okay, next type is the wolf type. And these are also known as night owls. And the percentage of population is about 15 to 20% for these types. They wake up and they sleep later too. So their productivity peaks about midday and in the evening. And wolves are less affected by caffeine. And the next type is the lion type. And so the population for these types are about 15 to 20%. These are also known as early birds. Okay, they wake up early and are most productive in the morning. They are also tired in the evening and they seem to go to bed earlier. And like I said before, like our modern society, we tend to have a favoritism towards these types, right? Just because they are genetically programmed this way. But the wolves, the night owls, Please don't see them as lazy types because it's just our genes are constructed this way. That's all that it is. It is genetic programming. Next, we have dolphins. And dolphins make about 10% of society. These are light sleepers. They have hard time following a regular routine, and they are productive mid-morning to afternoon, and they have frequent nighttime awakenings. And so dolphin chronotypes usually are those people who don't need to sleep as much as some people. So if I can give you an example, it's Jeff Bezos versus Elon Musk, right? Jeff Bezos sleeps about 8 hours a night, whereas Elon Musk, he claims to only sleep like, I don't know, I think 5 hours or something, 5-6 hours or something like that. And they are both geniuses, I would think, but I think they are just programmed differently. They just have different sleep genes, which make them function differently. And so they have to adapt themselves to the environment very differently, right? But I mean, again, it depends on the individual. Like you can sleep 8 hours a night and you can become a billionaire, or you can become the wealthiest person in the world. And you can also sleep 5 to 6 hours a night, and you can also become a pioneer, and you can also change the world by taking us to Mars and all the other genius things that Elon Musk has done for us. And so you can do great things no matter what chronotype you are. Okay, let's talk about the stages of sleep. Okay, so here are the stages of sleep. We obviously have the awake stage, the NREM stage, and the REM stage. And so the awake stage is also known as the learning phase, or experiencing phase, I would say. NREM sleep, non-REM sleep, is the reflection phase, and REM sleep is the integration phase. And so let's dive into each of these. So REM stands for rapid eye movement, and NREM stands for non-rapid eye movement. So during sleep, we usually go through these cycles. And REM, or rapid eye movement, is this phase of sleep where our eyes seem to, rapidly move for some reason. And I don't think there is a scientific specific reason for this, but this is just how humans, we sleep during the night, and we go through cycles of these. And during NREM sleep, the brain is taking out any unnecessary neural connections, and it's kind of like a cleanse, and it's also known as the lymphatic system, where we are like cleansing the brain. We are getting rid of the toxins from our brains. So it's removing any unnecessary neural connections. Whereas when we are awake, we are constantly experiencing the world around us, right? So this is known as the learning phase. In NREM sleep, you can see this as the reflection phase. So it's storing and straightening these new information and skills, and it's also getting rid of the waste, the toxics. And what you are actually experiencing during deep NREM sleep is one of the most epic displays of neural collaboration that we know of. Through an astonishing act of self-organization, many thousands of brain cells have all decided to unite and sing or fire. In time, every time I watch the stunning act of neural synchrony occurring at night in my own research laboratory, I am humbled. Sleep is truly an object of awe. I don't know if I would go that far to call sleep an object of awe, but you can tell how passionate this man is about sleep. And he knows his sleep, man. All right, REM sleep. During REM sleep, this is also known as the dreaming state, is strengthening important neural connections within our brains. REM sleep is called the integration phase, and it's connecting memories with old ones. It's combining new experiences with past experiences. It's building a more accurate version of how the world works and how it all makes sense to us. So it's enhancing problem-solving skills, and this is the phase where you get like all these creative insights. And so there are probably times in your life where you just woke up from a dream and you just had like this epiphany moment, right? That happens in REM sleep. In REM sleep, your brain is actually very active, and it seems as though you can't tell the difference if the brain is asleep or not. And it looks something like this. So we have the awake version, the learning phase, and you can see down there that in REM sleep, REM sleep, that it looks quite similar to when we are awake. And in REM sleep, the brain is very active, but the body is actually paralyzed. In REM sleep, if you were to grab somebody's arm and then let it go, it would be like dead weight. Like their arm would just drop back down as if they were almost dead. Like the body is almost paralyzed in this state. And for as long as the REM sleep period lasts, you are completely paralyzed. There's no tone in the voluntary muscles of your body, none whatsoever. If I were to quietly come into the room and gently lift up your body without waking you, it will be completely limp, like a rag doll. And so this is like a deep, restful state for your body. Your body is really rejuvenating itself in REM sleep and also in non-REM sleep as well. All right, so they are both extremely important. You need both of these, okay? And it's for the health, not just of your body, but absolutely for your brain. Like we mentioned before, it makes neural connections inside your brain. The things that you learn during the day, they get ingrained into your brain during sleep. So we need sleep to be able to learn better, to be able to focus better. And here's the thing. Here's why I mentioned that we need both, and we need a lot of sleep, especially the quality of sleep. So during the first half of the night, the majority of our sleep consists of deep NREM and very little REM sleep. And second half of the night, majority is REM, and we get a little bit of the deep NREM sleep. And you can actually track this by using a tracker such as Oura ring. And it's like almost like this graph right here. So when I check my Oura ring app, it looks very similar to this. So during the first half of the night, we get a ton of NREM sleep. And then after we have gotten our NREM sleep, we now shift into REM sleep. So here's the thing. Here's the thing that's key. We need both to have a healthy body and mind. But because of these cycles, we need a certain amount of sleep to process, to go through both of these stages. So that is why we need to get at least, like 7 to 8 hours of sleep for our body to fully go through this entire process, because we have to go through both of these processes to have a healthy brain. And so NREM sleep, it's like the sculptor. They are removing the stone for the sculpture. And REM sleep is like enhancing the fine grain of the sculpture. So they both play very, very important parts. So how would this affect us if we don't sleep? If we lose a lot of sleep, if we are only sleeping like 4 or 5 hours a night, how does this affect us, right? And here is key. And this point right here is pretty much why I placed a big emphasis on sleep now, and I make sleep a big priority in my life. Say we had to wake up early. Okay, so say we had like 6 hours of sleep yesterday instead of the recommended 7 to 8 hours. So the logical answer is that we lost 25% of our sleep. But that's not the answer, is it? Because you know about these sleep cycles that we shift from NREM sleep to REM sleep during the night. So the whole picture is this. If we lose the later parts of that sleep, if we only sleep for 6 hours versus 8, we are losing a ton of that REM sleep that we absolutely need. Because REM sleep kicks in during the last parts of the night, you would have lost about 60 to 90% of REM sleep, even though you only lost 25% of total sleep. You might have lost 25% of total sleep, but that quality of sleep, you're losing a ton of. And so that is why we need to get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep, because we have to give time for our body to go through that entire process instead of just cutting it off like in the middle of the night, okay? So that's why, like 5-6 hours, it might not be enough to fully embrace and to fully make those neural connections in the brain during REM sleep. All right, let's talk about sleep spindles. This is also important. They occur during both light and deep NREM sleep, but mostly during the stage 2 NREM sleep, which is a lighter type of sleep. And they look something like this. So if you can see on stage 2 there, that is what is known as a sleep spindle, like the rapidly movement of those waves in the brain. And here's a closer look. So this is a sleep spindle. And so there was a big study with naps and sleep spindles. So they took 2 groups, Group A no nap group, and Group B, a napping group. And both groups had an intense learning session associated with memory in the afternoon. And so both of these groups would have these intense learning sessions in the afternoon, but here's the difference. Group B, the napping group, they took a 90-minute nap in a sleep lab with electrodes on their heads. And Group A, they just did some menial tasks without the nap, browsing on the web and, menial tasks like that. And so later at 6 p.m., there was another round of intense learning. And this is what they found out. So Group A, the awake group, they were progressively worse at learning, even though their concentration remained stable. But group B, those people that nap for 90 minutes, they improved their ability to memorize facts. So they were better at learning at 6 p.m. versus 12 p.m. And they were even better than even before their naps, right? So they have gotten better at learning just through sleeping. And so they had a 20% learning advantage. And what they found was that learning, especially memory, was strengthened by the stage 2 NREM sleep spindles. So it's showing a almost direct correlation between the stage 2 sleep spindles and learning ability. The more sleep spindles, the more restoration of learning. So all these different brainwave activities during sleep, they all harmoniously seem to play a big part for our well-being. So we want all of these during our sleep. We want the NREM sleep, we want the REM sleep, and we also want those sleep spindles. These really ingrained that learning that we did during the day and really implanted there permanently into our brains. So we have to go through that entire cycle. So how much sleep do we actually need, right? All right, so everybody's different. Again, we all have different chronotypes. So as a general rule, this is just a big generalization, but not too little, but also not too much. And sleeping too much, by the way, might lead to a sleep hangover. And I also feel this way too. If I sleep for too long, for like 12 hours or over, I seem to be more groggy than I am awake. So I try not to sleep too long. So as a general rule, at least 7 to 9 hours a day. And it really depends on you and your lifestyle and how much quality of that sleep you get during those hours too. Because you might be able to get all of your REM and your NREM and your sleep spindles within 7 hours, but some people need longer than that. They get all of their NREM and REM and sleep spindles in 9 hours. So it really depends on the individual. And you can absolutely track this, by the way, with your Oura ring, which I will be covering extensively coming up very soon. But sleep quality also counts. So more REM and deep NREM sleep. And this is from Oura Ring. And it says, on average for adults, REM sleep is about 1.5 to 2 hours. And deep sleep is about 1 to 1.5 hours. And getting a sleep tracker like this, it really, really opens up your eyes. Man, I think it's one of the best investments I've made in recent times because it really opened up my eyes on how much sleep I was getting. Like, for example, I thought I was getting 8 hours of sleep a night, right? And when I first got this ring and actually measured how much sleep I was getting objectively, I was not getting 8 hours of sleep a night. I was in bed for 8 hours a night, but I was not getting 8 hours of sleep. In fact, I was getting like 5 hours of sleep or something like that, which is really bad, okay, as the research says, right? So I was able to correct my sleep by getting a tracker like this. It really gives me an objective view on how much sleep I am actually getting. And so the number of people who can survive on 5 hours of sleep or less without any impairment expressed as a percent of the population and rounded to a whole number is 0. Sleep is essential for our survival, not just for our survival, but to be able to thrive in our life. So without adequate sleep, we will not survive. In fact, there used to be a Guinness book or a Guinness record for the most amount of sleep or most amount of time a person can go without sleep. But Guinness found that that type of attempt is so dangerous that they actually remove that record. So that record does not exist anymore because they deemed it was too dangerous for a person to go with that many hours without sleep. So we have to sleep. It's for our survival. Okay, so let's talk about sleepless elites. So we've talked about the different chronotypes of people, right? And so there are actually very rare individuals that naturally sleep 6 hours or less, even without alarm clocks. They will seem to wake up within 6 hours, right? And these are very rare individuals. They have a special gene called the BHLHE41. And some people that come to mind when I think of this gene is, like Elon Musk. He claims to only sleep like 5 to 6 hours, right? Or some other politicians, like busy politicians, they claim to only sleep like 5 to 6 hours of a night, and they tend to be fine. But this is very rare. You probably don't have this gene. I'm going to say it right now, because the odds are you have more chances of being struck by lightning than having this gene. It's more than a 1 in 12,000 odds. So you probably don't have this gene, so you should get more sleep. You should at least aim for 7 to 9 hours of sleep. All right, so we've covered a lot of sleeping and the brain, but let's cover a little bit more extensively. So let me talk about a study and a little story here. So there was a keyboard typing study. They separated these people into two different groups. The first group, they learned the sequence in the morning and test their skills 12 hours later in the evening after staying awake. So the test was about like a typing skill test. So they would give them like random numbers to type, and they would see how well they would do on this test. And so the first group, they tested their skills 12 hours later in the evening after staying awake. And the second group, they would learn the sequence at night, and then they would test their skills 12 hours later in the morning. So it's the same 12 hours, but the second group, they had 8 hours of sleep. So the same 12 hours, but one group had 8 hours of sleep, okay? So the first group, they showed no significant improvements the next day. Or I guess the same day. And the second group, they showed a 20% increase in performance speed and 35% improvement in accuracy just by getting the sleep. Because again, we've mentioned the sleep makes those neural connections deeper. It really implements it into your brain. And they went through sleep spindles. We've talked about how sleep spindles may have a big correlation with learning. So your brain continues to improve skill just with sleep alone. If you don't sleep the night after learning a skill, then you lose that chance to deepen your skill. Is this making sense? Is this showing you how important sleep is? It's important for learning and for our ability to focus. And remember, you can never get sleep back. So people think that they can catch up, quote unquote, catch up on sleep on the weekends. But studies have shown you can never get it back. So you can never get that opportunity to deepen your skills with sleep back. It's kind of like you are wasting your time learning it if you're not sleeping. You are wasting all of those practice hours, all of those focus hours that you are doing during the day if you don't get enough sleep, and you can't get it back. And so there was a pianist who actually came up to Matthew Walker, and he said that I will be practicing a particular piece even late into the evening, and I cannot seem to master it. Often, I make the same mistake at the same place in a particular movement, and I go to bed frustrated. And the pianist said, but when I wake up the next morning and sit back down at the piano, I can just play perfectly. So the pianist is pretty much saying, even though he's frustratingly playing this piano, after sleep, it seems that he can just play this piece perfectly. And so Matthew Walker says that practice does not make perfect. It is practice followed by a night of sleep that leads to perfection. And actually, I have to add something here because practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So let me rephrase this a little bit. It is perfect practice followed by a night of sleep that leads to perfection. I think that's a better, fuller answer. And I will actually be going over talent and how you can practice better so you can really improve faster at a skill in a later lesson. But let's continue on with sleep. And because of the neural connections and information storing the brain does while asleep, it is one of the most important things for learning, focus, and brain power. Is this really making sense? I really want to drill this into your mind that sleep is important. Please get your sleep, all right? Without enough sleep, we are losing out on the opportunity for our brains to create new neural connections. We're pretty much learning less with less sleep. And we can never get our sleep back. That humans and all other sleepers can never sleep back that which we have previously lost. Take a look at this. Is one of the most important take-homes of this book. And he has extensively said this in his book, Why We Sleep. And if Matthew Walker says this, then I believe him, man. So please get your sleep because you can never get that shit back. All right, let's talk about sleep intervals. So how should we sleep? How many times a day should we actually sleep, okay? So let's take a look at more of the practical parts of sleep. So most of society today, we sleep in what are known as monophasic sleep. This means a long single round of sleep at night, right? And so here are a few different sleep patterns. So there is monophasic, there's biphasic, sleeping twice a day, bi meaning two. And then there are many other types of sleeps, and I've actually tried to do these experiments in the past. They did not work, and they will absolutely not work for the long term. Remember, everything that we do in this program is for the long term, okay? We really want things to last. But like the Everyman and the Uberman and the Dimaxium, they're really just not practical. Because something like the Uberman or something, you need to be sleeping like every 4 hours. So it's pretty ridiculous. You have to interrupt your day in the middle of the day and then you have to go and take a nap. So it's not really practical. So let's talk about the two practical ones, the monophasic and biphasic. So if you visit like cultures that are untouched by technology, such as like hunter-gatherer tribes, they sleep in intervals known as biphasic patterns, which means just sleeping twice a day. So biphasic patterns are, they have a longer sleep at night, the usual 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night, but then they also implement a 30 to 60-minute nap in the afternoon. And tribes, they will actually sleep about 2 to 3 hours after sunset, usually at 9 p.m., and they will wake up soon after dawn. But again, we are all different, right? The different chronotypes that we have. So the pattern of biphasic sleep isn't originated with culture. Studies are showing that it is actually hardwired into us. We all have this biological wiring that creates a dip in alertness that occur mid-afternoon or several hours after we have been awake. I'm pretty sure we have all experienced that mid-afternoon crash. Like we have like this dip in energy around like mid-afternoonish, and it just seems to really interrupt our day. Like we can't really focus during this time, right? And it's called the postprandial alertness dip, from the Latin prandium, meal. It seems to be a daily rhythm in human beings. So some cultures actually embrace biphasic patterns with siestas. We've all heard of people taking naps in certain countries, such as South America, Mediterranean, Europe, and Greece, in the past at least. And so some cultures, they would actually close everything down, like not just one like business, but like the entire city would like close everything down and everybody would go and take a nap. So like I said, in the past, Greece used to have these biphasic patterns of sleeping, right? But then there was pressure from the other societies to abandon the siesta-like culture in Greece. And so there was a study done on how important these naps they can be. So there was a study, a research from Harvard University School of Public Health, where they took about 23,000 Greek adults, which none of them had a history of coronary heart disease at the start of the research. And they separated them into two different groups, one that abandoned siestas and one that continued with siestas. Well, the group who regularly napped versus the group who abandoned these siestas, the people who abandoned the siestas, they had a 37% risk of death from coronary heart disease over a 6-year period compared to those who regularly napped. In working men, mortality risk of not napping increased by 60%. So in short, this is from Matthew Walker. He says, when we are cleaved from the innate practice of biphasic sleep, our lives are shortened. The practice of natural biphasic sleep and a healthy diet appear to be the keys to a long, sustained life. And he doesn't say this directly in the book, but I think Matthew Walker really is suggesting that we try to adopt a biphasic pattern of sleeping. Because like all of the research and the studies, they're done with groups that take a nap versus groups that do not take a nap. And so I'm seeing like the same patterns over and over again. And it seems that, taking a nap is really powerful. So here are just some tips. Try out some naps, okay? It can give you that rejuvenation that you need for your focus. And again, when you take those naps, remember, you are activating those sleep spindles, which help you to learn better, right? So maybe if your lifestyle allows, then try a biphasic pattern of sleeping. And before reading this book, before I got my mind blown, I used to never take naps, right? I used to think that naps are for lazy people. I don't need a nap. But now I actually regularly and frequently take naps. I mean, if I don't need a nap, then I don't need a nap. But when at times when I do experience that afternoon crash, then I take a nap. And you know what? Just like these studies show, my cognitive abilities seem to increase after the nap. Seems like I get like the second wind and I just get more focus power by that nap. So try to schedule naps, avoid high pressure work during mid-afternoon because you might experience crashes during this time, right? So try to avoid presentations or meetings or flow stuff during your crashes, your afternoon period where you might experience crashes. And naps are not a replacement for deep sleep, by the way. So please, you still need that 7 to 9 hours of sleep at night. So it's not a replacement for that. Use it as a supplement. And don't make naps too long because it might affect your deep sleep at night. All right, let's talk about sleep and performance. So there has been tremendous amounts of sleep and performance. About 750 plus scientific studies on elite athletes and sleep loss show that anything less than 8 hours, and especially anything less than 6 hours of sleep, lead to the following conditions. Aerobic performance significantly reduced, up to 30% drop in time to physical exhaustion, decreases in peak muscle strain, reductions in blood oxygen saturation, reduction in amount of air lungs can expire, faster rates of lactic acid buildup, impairments in vertical height jump, even the body's ability to cool itself through sweating is impaired. And so they took a one-man study on Andre Iguodala, he's a professional basketball player, and they measured Andre Iguodala's performance with less than 8 hours of sleep, and then they also measure his performance with more than 8 hours of sleep. And this is what the study shows. So Andre Iguodala, after having more than 8 hours of sleep compared to having less than 8 hours of sleep, he had 12% increase in minutes played. He had a 39 increase in points per minute, 2% increase in 3-point percentage, 9% increase in free throw percentage, 37 increase in turnovers, or I would say 30% less in turnovers, right? And a 45% increase in fouls committed, or less fouls committed. So everything improved when Andre Iguodala got more than 8 hours of sleep. And there was actually a 2014 research on young athletes on lack of sleep across an entire season. And this is what it turned out. And they were looking for injuries within this period. It seems that 6 hours or less sleep correlates to a higher chance of injury. Whereas, as you can see, the more sleep that the athletes got, the more chances of injury that occurred. And it has even been said that LeBron James sleeps anywhere from, I think it was 8 to 12 hours or something. And he and his trainer, he has an excellent trainer, by the way, and his trainer always asks LeBron every single day, did you get enough sleep yesterday? Did you get at least 8 hours of sleep? That's like the first thing that they discuss when they meet with each other. So they know how important sleep is, and how sleep is for especially longevity, because, you know, LeBron is getting older as an athlete. So in order to play for you know, longer years, then he has to get at least 8 hours of sleep, especially if you're an athlete, And even Usain Bolt, the fastest man in the world, before he broke the world record, it was noted that he took a nap like 30 minutes before he broke the world record, and he occasionally takes many naps throughout his day. And so, if you want to break records, take some naps. And Roger Federer, even he says he gets like 10 hours. No. He gets 10 hours of deep sleep, and he also takes 2-hour naps. So he gets a total of like 12 hours of sleep a day. And especially if you are, you know, like an athlete that really has to tax your body, or even somebody who's in a very mind-taxing kind of occupation or career, then you do need a lot of sleep, because you really need to rest your mind and your body. All right, sleep and performance. So sleep is probably the greatest legal performance enhancing drug that few athletes are abusing enough. All right, so let's talk about alcohol and sleep. First of all, alcohol is a sedative. Sedation means it's not sleep. It's just for rest. And also goes for sleeping pills. Sedation does not mean sleep, especially the REM and the deep sleep. Alcohol creates fragmented sleep. It's not a continuous deep sleep. So it might help you to rest and relax, but it is not going to give you the sleep that you need. It creates fragmented sleep. You need more of a continuous type of sleep more than anything. And alcohol also blocks dream sleep, which is the REM sleep that we all need, right? So alcohol is actually blocking that type of sleep. So it's actually doing your body a disservice, because it's not allowing you to get into those REM sleeps. So alcohol is a poor excuse to use as a sleeping aid. Okay, so try not to use alcohol as a sleeping aid. In fact, if I have a little bit of alcohol, my resting heart rate and my heart rate variability seems to drastically be reduced meaning it gets a lot worse if I drink alcohol and if I measure myself on the Oura ring. So it can really disrupt sleep, and it's bad for the body too. So you can have it every now and then, like on cheat days, but during like flow time and when you get that momentum of focus power, then I would stay away from alcohol. You don't need it. All right, pills and sleep. So sleeping pills usually do more harm than good for sleep. And sleeping pills, these, again, they are sedatives, meaning they help you to sedate, but it might not get you that quality of sleep that you need. And, Matthew Walker, the sleep scientist, the sleep genius, he really wants to find a pill that can really help you with sleep, right? He's all for this. But he says right now, there is no such thing. And these sleeping pills, they have more side effects than they have any benefits. So, I mean, I really want to find a pill that works for me too, right? That helps me to get that REM and deep sleep. But, it's just not how it works. So we just really need that natural sleep. And I will be going over, the sleep hacks and how we can engineer our sleep so we can get that deep sleep coming up in just a bit. All right, let's talk about coffee and caffeine and how it affects our sleep. And I am all for coffee. I am all for tea. I'm a big fan, right? But here's the thing with caffeine. Caffeine has a half-life of 6 hours and a quarter life of 12 hours. And I think I talked about this before, but caffeine, if you drink it at 12 p.m., then half of that still remains until 6 p.m. And a quarter of that still remains when you go to sleep at midnight. Meaning, when you're going to sleep at midnight, you are basically chugging a quarter cup of coffee before you go to sleep. So it has a very slow decaying half-life. And so you want to stop drinking coffee, especially in the evening. Do not drink coffee or tea at night, or unless it has no caffeine, right? But you want to stop drinking coffee about afternoonish so that you can eliminate all of the caffeine from your body before you go to sleep. So again, if you drink 1 cup of coffee at 12 p.m., 1/4 of it will still be in your system by 12 a.m. And for me, I personally can sleep even with coffee later in the day. So I try to stop my coffee intake about 2 to 3 p.m. and I can still sleep, and I can still see that my deep sleep is not affected by this. And you need a accurate tracker to measure this, such as the Oura ring. But of course, everybody is different, right? So try to experiment with this. Try to reduce caffeine, and especially your cutoff time. Try to have an earlier caffeine cutoff time than usual. Now that you know this, now that you know that coffee takes some time to be eliminated from your body, try to drink coffee earlier in the day rather than later. And if you still need energy in the evening, try a decaf, but it still has a little bit of caffeine. Or you can drink keto coffee, keto decaf coffee. Or you can drink tea with no caffeine and then just add MCT oil or butter. So you can just take some MCT oil to get a surge of energy instead of the caffeine. And I honestly think that ketones are a better source of energy than caffeine. So I would rather take ketones rather than caffeine. And of course, ketones, they don't really affect sleep as much as caffeine does. So I will go that route. So you'll get energy with ketones and not caffeine. And especially if you're in ketosis, you don't really need anything actually. If I'm in deep ketosis, I can go hours and hours on a project without even coffee. Seriously, I just drink water sometimes. I don't even need all this stuff. So it goes to show how powerful ketosis is and how powerful sleep is. If you combine the two, man, you turn into superhuman strength, focus power. All right, so what happens if we don't sleep, right? So what happens if we have a lack of sleep? So let me show you some studies. So there was a research done by David Dinges at the University of Pennsylvania, and he gave simple concentration and reaction time tests. So this test was actually really simple. When you press a button, the light will come on, and the light will come on at random times. So it's just a spontaneous display of light, and when the light comes on, you press the button to test your reaction time, right? So he did this 10 minutes a day for 14 days straight. And he wanted to see how sleep affects this type of concentration and reaction time. And he wanted to measure performance and these things known as microsleeps. So microsleeps are like those times when you're nodding off to sleep. You know, those times where you're just so sleep deprived, and say you're like in a class or something listening to a professor, and you just catch yourself nodding off to sleep and then waking back up again. Or when you have a lack of sleep and then you're driving, which is extremely dangerous, by the way, and you see yourself and then you catch yourself like nodding off to sleep. So that is what is known as microsleeps. So the test was really simple. Whenever the light turns on, you press the button. So they took 4 groups. One group had 8 hours of sleep a night. The other group had 72 hours of no sleep, which was borderline torturing, okay? And another group, they had 4 hours of sleep a night. And the other group, their last group, they had 6 hours of sleep a night. This is what happened with the 4 groups. The group with 8 hours of sleep a night, they were stable, right? They had near perfect performance throughout the 2 weeks. The group with the 72 hours straight no sleep, which is seriously like borderline torturing them, right? The first night of no sleep, they missed responses by 400%. And it didn't just stop there. It didn't just plateau there. It continued to escalate into nights 2 and 3 with no signs of leveling out. What about the 4-hour group? The 4-hour group, after 4 hours of sleep for 6 nights straight, was just as bad as the 24 hours of no sleep. They had a 400% increase in microsleep. And here is the biggest point here, because the 6-hour group, and remember, some of us think that 6 hours is enough sleep for us, but study shows otherwise. So after 6 hours of sleep for 10 nights straight, they were just as bad as 24 hours of no sleep. And it continued with no signs of stopping. So if you think 6 hours of sleep is enough, please reevaluate and please try to get more hours of sleep and see the difference. Like, see the difference for yourself. 6 hours versus 8 hours. How is your mental functions? How is it increasing with more sleep, right? So we really want to get more sleep. 6 hours, usually most of the time, is not enough for a human being. And lack of sleep compounds. So again, there's no leveling out. It's like 6 hours of sleep, it gets worse and worse and worse throughout the days. And this is pretty much describing what most of us experience, right? Like a lot of people today in today's society and how our scheduling runs, we only seem to get about 6 hours and we think that's adequate when it's not. And the lack of focus really compounds day after day. So we really need to get more hours of sleep a night. All right, sleeping and driving, like I said, it was really dangerous, right? If you don't drink and drive, you shouldn't be sleep deprived and drive. It is just as dangerous. And I think Matthew Walker goes on to say that it is more dangerous than drinking and driving. So there was a study with the AAA and they studied 7,000 drivers. On less than 5 hours of sleep, your accident risk triples. And on less than 4 hours of sleep, you are 11.5 times more likely to get into an accident. And here's a graph to really draw the picture for you. So your increase of crash risk dramatically increases with lack of sleep. And here's some advice from Matthew Walker. He says, you don't need to fall asleep for 10 to 15 seconds to die while driving. 2 seconds of sleeping behind the wheel will do it. A 2-second microsleep at 30 miles per hour with modest angle of drift can result in your vehicle transitioning entirely from one lane to the next. This includes into oncoming traffic. Should this happen at 60 miles per hour, and it might be the last microsleep you ever have. Drunk drivers are often late in braking and late in making evasive maneuvers, but here, listen to this. But when you fall asleep or have a microsleep, you stop reacting altogether. So you get the difference here. When you're drunk, you can make a reaction a bit. It's a late reaction, but when you sleep, you have no reaction. So please, if you are tired, pull over and just take a nap, okay? You are still going to get to your destination. Please don't drive when you are sleep deprived. All right, so here is your mission for today and the sleep hacks that you can utilize so you can get the most optimal amount and quality of sleep every single night. So we're going to talk a lot about sleep and sleep hacks here, but let's go down the list, shall we? So action item number 1. You want to first and foremost find out your sleep chronotype. And if you can, you want to adjust your schedule to your sleep chronotype if it allows you, if your lifestyle allows you. So you can just go to thepowerofonequiz.com and it's, I think it's like a dozen or so questions and it asks you for an email, but just plug in your email, it's worth it. And then you'll find out your sleep chronotype. All right, action item number 2, light. Okay, so here we are going to talk about many different types of light and how we can hack ourselves to have the best sleep possible. So let's dive into the different areas of light. So morning light, let's talk about morning light. So you want to get at least 30 to 40 minutes of sunlight in the morning, because this is telling your brain, remember the suprachiasmatic nucleus, that it is morning, and it's going to regulate the melatonin releases. So get at least 30 to 40 minutes of sunlight in the morning. Don't put on glasses or shades or anything like that. Expose as much skin as possible to sunlight, even on a cloudy day. Even though you might not think you're getting sunlight on a cloudy day, you actually are. And it really helps keep your circadian rhythm. Okay, action item number 2, and there's many parts to action item number 2, which is based on light, but you want to block blue light at night. It really disrupts sleep, and blue light is light from technology and light bulbs, and I've actually tested this myself. I get a lot more deep sleep if I block as much blue light as possible at night. So here are ways to do this. You can turn on, if you have iOS or if you have a MacBook or a Mac related device, you can turn on night shift. If you don't have a Mac, you can download Flux, F.lux, and you can download this at justgetflux.com. And you want to start blocking blue light about an hour or 2 before your sleep time. Okay, so you can set up your night shift like this. You can also Google this. It's a very simple Google search. And on the iPhone, you can set it up like this. And so in addition to turning off the blue light at night, you also want to dim your screens, because the brighter the light, the more it will affect your sleep too. So you want to dim your screen as much as possible at night, 1 or 2 hours before you go to sleep. I would say 2 hours just to be safe. Okay, so that's not the only light we have to worry about. We need to also replace our light bulbs, okay? So this might be drastic, but it's just a one-time thing. Do this once and you never have to do this again, right? So replace your light bulbs. So you can get better light, because the LED lights that we are exposed to today, they have what are known as junk light. Dave Asprey calls these like junk light. They're bad light for us. So we can replace them by investing in these other types of lights. So we can get tungsten lights, or we can get incandescent light bulbs, or halogen lights, or even candles. At nighttime, instead of turning on the light bulbs, we can actually use candles. Or what I like to do is you can get red light, because red light at night actually helps with the sleep cycles. So you can invest in red light like this. And what you can also do is you can use red LED night lights. So at night, instead of replacing like your entire light bulbs in your house, what you can do is you can just turn off the lights, and then you can invest in night lights like these. So you are still able to see at night, but it's just going to have a red glow instead of the usual LED glow. And you can place them inside your bathroom and so on. And they even have ones for toilets, if that's your thing. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you have to take a piss or whatever, you can invest in these. All right, so the next one is you want to block blue light from appliances. Remember, you only have to do this once and you never have to do this again. So you can get these light indicator light blockers, such as these, and any indicator lights at night that you can see. So for example, like there might be a TV indicator light that might emit blue light, or there might be, indicators from other devices, such as like your microwave or something. So you want to block all of those as much as possible. You want to make your room as dark as possible. So you can get specific stickers like these, where you can block off the indicator lights. See if with nothing, it emits like a green light, a blue type of light, and you can actually block those out. And True Dark also have these stickers. You can get that version. Or you can simply use electrical tape. I used electrical tape, and I've done this way back when. So these stickers did not exist. So I just use electrical tape. It works just as well. It completely blocks out the light. Or if you don't want to replace your lights, I would still suggest you to block out the indicator lights. But if you don't want to replace your light bulbs in the house or anything like that, you can invest in True Dark glasses. This is a big hack. And I think, I'm not sure if Dave Asprey came up with this idea, but these are glasses that just block out blue light, any blue light at night. And it looks something like this. And it can be a little pricey, especially for like a little piece of plastic device like this. But from my experience, it really helps. It really gets me more deep sleep. Like, for example, prior to getting these glasses, Like I could not for the life of me get a lot of deep sleep. My deep sleep numbers were anywhere from like 30 minutes to 40 minutes of light. And I was like, oh, how can I get more deep sleep, right? And I started using these glasses, and now I get like an hour plus of deep sleep a night. And so I really have to credit some of these glasses, and of course the other light strategies as well. But if you don't have the money for this, or if it's a little expensive for you, there are some knockoff versions. So here's a knockoff version that I found. It's only 40 bucks. I think it does the same thing. So it should be able to block out all of the blue light. And I'll leave links to these down below as well. Okay. So please avoid screens at night. And if you must use a screen, set it to maximum warm setting on night shift or flux, and dim it as much as possible. So you can go to flux like this and go to the warmest setting possible, and you can also dim your screen too. Okay, you can also invest in blackout curtains. I have these things at home, and it is truly a game changer, because now I can actually take naps during the middle of the day, no problem, because my body thinks it's at night now. So this is especially great if you want to implement naps into your schedule, and it's also great for at night too, because it blocks out all the other lights outside. So you really try to want to make your room as black as possible, okay? And some people actually take it to the extremes. They even buy trash bags and they cover up their windows with any light leakage that comes into the room. So, I mean, I've did this in the past. Actually, I've got a bunch of black trash bags and I covered every single bit of light inside my room. And now I don't really have to, because I've pretty much hacked my sleep. So I've covered all of my indicator lights and everything. I've invested in the blackout curtains and everything. So I don't really have to do this. But if you really want to, and if you are like an overachiever and you really want the best sleep as possible, then you can get black trash bags and you can cover every inch and morsel of light that comes inside of your room. Okay, so you can also wear a sleep mask or true dark while I sleep. I actually wear true dark glasses while I sleep, or a sleep mask while I sleep. And here's the thing. So sometimes I have to use a bathroom in the middle of the night. I hate doing this. And so I try to stop drinking water like an hour or two before bed. But sometimes I just still have to go, right? So the thing is, when I turn on the lights inside the bathroom, it has that LED. So you can invest in the red LED lights, or you can also use true dark glasses to go to the bathroom in, because it blocks out all the blue lights. And the thing is, like, it's not only your eyes that pick up the blue light. Your body also picks up blue light. That is why you want to invest in like the red light bulbs instead. So true dark does help, but just know that the other parts of your body can also sense blue light. So just keep that in mind. You might still want to replace your light bulbs with red light or some of the softer lights. So sleep masks, I mean, I can leave links to these down below. And there are now some very fancy ones, and they actually look pretty comfortable. I've never tested these out. The one I have is this one. This is called the Bear or something. It's a really famous one on Amazon. I'll leave links to this down below. All right, so let's move on to temperature now. So that's all about light and how we can hack our light for sleep, okay? So please try to cover as much light as possible and take action on as much of those action items as possible. If anything, if you want the 80/20, then get the true dark glasses or get the knockoff and block all your indicator lights. And I would also say get some good curtains or use trash bags. Okay, just block as much light as possible. All right, so temperature. Okay, let's engineer some of our temperature for maximum sleep. So remember how I said we have the circadian rhythms and we have rhythms in temperature. So when we are awake, temperature seems to rise. And when we are sleeping, temperature seems to drop. So what does this mean, right? The colder the temperature, the faster and deeper we can sleep. Cold temperature helps sleep, not hot temperature. Okay, so your core body temperature needs to drop by about 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit to initiate sleep. And Dr. Matthew Walker, he actually recommends a bedroom temperature of 65 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 18 degrees Celsius, with standard bedding and clothing. And I know it might seem like this is extremely cold, but this absolutely helps. It helps you to fall asleep faster and to continuously stay asleep. And if I have to 80-20 this entire sleeping, it would be light, temperature, and also noise too. But light and temperature play a big part in your sleep. So try to set your bed temperature to about 65 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'll give you some ways on how you can engineer this. So, okay, so going too low, less than 55 degrees Fahrenheit, can be worse for sleep, and also going too high can also affect your sleep. So you want it to be in the Goldilocks center of about 65 degrees. Here's a big hack, here's a big trick for you, okay? The hands, the feet, and the head. These are efficient temperature devices, but it has the opposite effect. Here's a big tip. Warming your hands and feet cool down your core temperature. Warming your hands and feet cool down your core temperature. In fact, there was a fascinating study on this, because warming your hands and feet encourages blood to rise to the surface of the skin, thereby emitting heat and cooling body temperature. And by warming your hands and feet, you can cool your core temperature. So again, there was a fascinating study where scientists, they warmed the feet of rats to cool their core temperature, okay? And they fell asleep far faster than normal. And there was another study with human beings, right? They conducted a study with a suit of body, and the special bodysuit, it was designed to warm any part of the body at will. So it can warm certain regions of the body. So they did an experiment where they warmed the feet and hands just by 1 degree Fahrenheit. Here's the results. It resulted in 20% faster sleep. And these were already very healthy, fast sleeping individuals. And in insomnias, this even had a better effect. It increased their sleep by 25% faster, at a faster rate. And before the hand and feet warming, these group had a 58% chance of waking up during the last part of the night and struggled to go back to sleep. But after they warmed their hands and feet, it dropped to a 4% chance, and it boosted deep non-REM sleep. So this is showing that if you warm your hands and your feet, you can get to sleep faster and stay asleep longer. And it's like a big little life hack, right? A sleep hack. So you can wear socks when you go to bed, or you can also wear gloves, and it can have a big impact on your sleep. For me personally, I always wear socks when I go to sleep, but the gloves I don't really like, or like I like it, but my body seems to not like it, because I would always wake up having to find myself taking the gloves off. So I would always wake up next to like the pair of gloves next to me, and I'll be like, oh man, I took off these gloves in the middle of the night. I guess my body really doesn't like this. So I wear socks, but I don't wear the gloves. But you can, of course. You absolutely can. Okay, so here are some temperature engineering hacks. So there are many options on how you can control your temperature. And so I'll just give you all the options here, okay? I'll try to give you as many options as possible. So first of all, let's talk about ChiliPad. This is a famous one. And this is quite pricey though. So what ChiliPad is, it is this bed cooling device which sits underneath your sheets, and it cools your bed, or is supposed to cool your bed. But I have heard, I've never used these by the way, but I've heard that the BedJet one is better, and it's also cheaper. So here's BedJet, and it looks something like this. And so you put it under your sheets and it cools you. And these are actual footages, as it says right there, actual infrared footages of BedJet, and it cools down your body to a good deep sleeping temperature. Or what I've used the entire time is I use a AC unit to control my bed temperature, and it works perfectly fine for me. But these AC units can be pretty expensive, especially like the smaller portable ones. And I have the one on the left that works perfectly fine. But of course, if you can't afford that, you can try out the BedJet. Okay, that's like the cheapest option here to control your bed temperature. Okay, fourth option, clothes, or specifically no clothes. So if you can't control your room temperature, if you can't invest money in a AC unit or anything like that, the next best thing is to sleep naked or as close to naked as possible. And I do this. I actually do this. I don't sleep naked. I sleep in my shorts, okay? But I have my top off, and it actually really helps. And so I used to have like random periods where I would get night sweats. I would wake up in the middle of the night like drenched in sweat, right? So removing my clothes actually really helped out with the night sweats, and also getting better sheets also helped out with my night sweats. So you might want to try this out, because sleeping without clothes, sleeping naked actually, can help with thermal regulation. And I would guess that sleeping with next to or nearly naked is what people back then used to sleep. Like hunter-gatherers. I would guess that is how they slept. And then I would guess like they would use some kind of fur to cover them up. But I would guess underneath that they would have no clothes. So you can try sleeping naked or sleeping in your underwear. And you might want to try it with socks though. So just like, I don't know, sleep in your underwear, but have on gloves and socks. And also gives your body some time to breathe, because you're always covered in clothing during the day, right? But taking your clothes off in the night, it gives your body a chance to breathe a little bit. All right, next option is bedding. Bedding is actually pretty important, because like I said, I used to get these night sweats where I would get up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat. And I found out that the sheeting was actually making me really hot during the middle of the night. And also my clothes. That's why I started to take off my clothes when I am sleeping. And so I'll give you some bedding options here. So this option is different for different people. So you want to use one that's comfortable for you. So some people like cotton, some people like linen. But you want to have your bedding as breathable as possible, because that really helps out, especially when you're hot. Because if you're like stuffed inside your bed sheets and you're not allowing your body to breathe, then you can, like my example, you can end up getting night sweats. So you want breathable, and you also want weighted blankets. There's like studies done that are saying like having something heavy on you while at night, it helps with your sleep. And you can choose whether it's linen or cotton, and the mattress is completely up to you, right? However way you are more comfortable with. But I'll give you some options though. I'll give you some suggestions here. So here is a weighted blanket. This is a breathable type. I know it's a little bit expensive, but here's a cheaper alternative. Here's another weighted blanket. This one is about 15 pounds, but the first one, by the way, it's 30 pounds, right? So this is a lot heavier. This one is only 15 pounds. And it should be breathable material, and it should be like the soft type of material. Here's also a famous one. This is the gravity blanket. It's a cooling blanket that is really designed and engineered to give you a cooler type of sleep. And they claim that it's supposed to be for a sweat-free slumber. And they claim that this will help you with your night sweats if you are a night sweater like I am. And of course, the covers, like the linen duvet covers, this of course is personal preference, but you can get some good breathable covers such as this one. It might be expensive, and I'm sure there are cheaper alternatives, so please feel free to go on Amazon and look for some. But this is just an option I'm giving you here. Okay, mattresses. So I've heard many good things about the purple mattress. This is supposed to help you sleep, and then they have like all the science and stuff backing this up, but it is quite expensive. Okay, and I'm not too picky on my mattresses. I can sleep on anything, to be honest. But if you have a hard time sleeping on your mattress, maybe you can invest in a better mattress. So this is purple. All right, here's another temperature trick. Okay, you can take a hot shower or hot bath before you go to sleep. And you want to do this at least 30 minutes to an hour before you go to sleep. Because here's the thing, just like with the hands and the feet, hot baths have the opposite effect on your body, because you want to cool down your core temperature, right? But when you take a hot bath and then you come out of the hot bath, when you get out, your body actually radiates heat rapidly and it cools down your core body temperature. So hot showers and hot baths have the opposite effect. It can help you to sleep faster because the body is rapidly cooling itself when you get out of the hot shower. And I have also tested cold showers and cold baths. From my experience, it is just as effective. Okay, I find myself that whenever I do these cold showers, it really helps me to sleep faster, by the way. And I start to like snore in the middle of the night because of these cold showers. So cold showers, hot showers, they both work from my experience. Okay, so if you want all the 80-20% of all of this, again, just adjust the light and the temperature and you should be good, seriously. And just maybe like noise problem, but you can use earplugs, and I'll recommend a product coming up very soon. But just work on the light and temperature and you should have your baseline set for you to get optimal sleep. And you want to really experiment around for this because everybody's different, right? So you can try experimenting with different temperatures. And I know I did a lot of experiments with temperatures. I started with like 22 degrees Celsius, and that didn't really work. And so I dropped it all the way down to 18, and 18 seems to be like my ideal temperature actually. Like it has to be really cold for me, and I tend to get more deep sleep whenever it's colder. And I tend to fall asleep and stay asleep at colder temperatures. So experiment around with your ideal temperature and light. All right, let's talk about noise. Okay, to deal with noise, I'll give you a few options here, a few hacks. So earplugs. And the regular type of earplugs, they're like the long type, right? And you can't really sleep on your side with the longer type of earplugs. But there's a special type of earplugs. It's called Max Pillow Soft silicone earplugs. This is actually designed for swimmers when they are swimming, but it absolutely helps with your sleep because it blocks out a lot of that noise. And so these are very cheap. It's only like $4 for 6 pairs, and it looks something like this. So you can actually mold this silicone to your ear, and it's supposed to cover and block out all of that light. And it's supposed to reduce the sound of the environment by up to 22 decibels. So it's really effective actually. But the thing is, they don't last forever. So it's not like regular earplugs where you can use them indefinitely. These actually only last for, it says on the package that they last like 3 days, but you can extend that. You can extend that to like a week or maybe even 2 weeks. So a pair can last you about a week or two. And the reason is because it has to like stick inside your ear and has to like cover your ear, and then like that stickiness seems to decline with time. But these are very effective for any noise, so you can try these out. And you can also sleep on the side with these things, as opposed to regular earplugs where it like sticks out. But with these things, you can comfortably sleep on your side. All right, a white noise machine. So white noise machines is said to help babies to fall asleep. And what white noise machines are, it looks something like this. So it creates like this soothing white noise sounds. And it also creates like natural noises like rain or like the waves from the beach and stuff like that. And it's supposed to help you to sleep. I've never used this personally, but I've heard many great things about this. And so maybe you can try this out if you're having trouble falling asleep at night. And it's also very cheap. I mean, this machine is only like $20, right? And so maybe it's a worthwhile investment for you to make to hack your sleep. So action item number 5, this is sleep hygiene. And remember how we talked about taking a hot shower at night, but the hot shower also plays a part in temperature and also cleanliness when we go to sleep at night. Because we are taking a shower at night, we are removing all of that dirty bacteria that we witnessed throughout the day. And so it keeps our bed clean at night and it keeps our sheets clean at night. And so it can have like a psychological effect more than anything when we go to sleep, because we are sleeping cleaner, you know, and it can help calm down that noisy mind as we go to sleep at night. All right, here's another little hack here, okay? This might seem a little weird, but this is a trick I have picked up from Dr. Beren. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, but he outlines this in the book called 8-Hour Sleep Paradox. And so mouth taping, it is suggested by Dr. Mark that if you snore or like have like some kind of sleep apnea, you can try out a mouth tape when you sleep. So here's the book, The 8-Hour Paradox, and he suggests to breathe from our nose, especially when we are sleeping. He says that breathing from our mouth at night especially can cause a lot of problems, especially in snoring and with sleep apnea patients. And so what he suggests is to actually tape up our mouth when we are going to sleep. And this can actually help alleviate a lot of that snoring problem that some of us might have. And it can get us deeper into sleep because breathing from our nose is supposedly a lot healthier than breathing from our mouth, especially when we're sleeping. And it can really help alleviate the snoring. So here are some strips that you can use, some tapes that you can use to cover your mouth. And here are some other alternatives. So this is by 3M, and this is a skin tape that you can use over your mouth. But you know what? I just use regular Scotch tape. And I don't do this anymore actually, because I did this in the beginning just to get my body used to it and to habituate my body to using my nose to breathe. And now I find that I don't really breathe through my mouth anymore. So like after doing this for a period of time, I don't really need this anymore because my body is now used to breathing through the nose. But at first I started using Scotch tapes, and Scotch tapes worked just fine for me. And you can just use a few pieces and just stitch it over your mouth. And that seems to do the trick for me. But for more extreme cases, you might need a stronger tape. So this is, again, individual based. So test this out. See how this works for you. And if you want more information on this, there's a great video on this, by the way. And it's on YouTube. And I can leave a link to this down below. It's called Mouth Breathing and Mouth Taping with Dr. Mark Buren. Okay. Action item number 6. This is probably what you've been waiting for. Sleep cocktails. Again, I'm not a big fan of like sleeping aids and sleeping pills or anything, but I try to keep it as natural as possible. And now I don't really need the sleep cocktails because again, 80-20 is light and temperature. Get those fixed and get the noise fixed, and you should have an ideal type of sleep setting at night. But these drinks is just in case. Like if I really can't go to sleep, then I will try some of these sleep cocktails. Okay, so the number 1 secret here: raw, unfiltered, organic honey. Raw, unfiltered, organic honey. Something like this. So this is actually a great brand. This is Raw Honey. And so this is like a great secret sleep cocktail from the late Seth Roberts. And he suggests this little cocktail here. It's 1 tablespoon of raw, unfiltered, organic honey, and it must be raw. 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar with 8 ounces of warm water. And Tim Ferriss is actually a big advocate of this. And Tim Ferriss, he like swears by this, and he says like 8 out of 10 people that he knows that have tried this cocktail will really make it a lights out for them. And Chase Jarvis also is a big advocate of this. And like he's saying that people, even with like chronic insomniacs, they will just fall asleep almost instantly after drinking this cocktail, right? Okay, it's maybe not almost instantly, but they will have a better sleep by drinking this cocktail. So that's it. That's like the ingredients. 1 tablespoon of raw, unfiltered, organic honey, and it must be raw, by the way. It must be raw. 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar with some warm water. And we've mentioned apple cider vinegar many times. It has many great health benefits. So there's no like exact science why it works so well, but it definitely works for a lot of the people, me, myself included. And so like there's an article that says like bedtime honey improves sleep 1000%. Crazy good tip, right? And this person, Jason, he says that I did the experiment. I've been doing it for the past 6 days now. Yeah, 1000%. So if you have trouble sleeping, then try out this cocktail. And the theory behind why this works so well is actually not the cocktail itself, it's actually honey. And the theory behind this is like the brain uses energy while we sleep, and it includes like burning sugar in the form of glycogen. And having a bit of sugar can be beneficial. But then the raw honey is supposedly low on the glycemic index, so it shouldn't raise blood sugar. It actually does. I've tested this. But raw honey has like a GI of like 45. And it's not really that low, to be honest. But it's lower than sugar. Sugar is like 60 or something. And so the theory behind this is that raw honey, it creates some of this glycogen at night that the brain uses. So raw honey is used first before the stored glycogen, before the liver body uses stored liver glycogen. So it uses that first to help the brain get to sleep. So that's like the entire theory behind this thing. And it does work. The sleep cocktail does work for me. And it should work for about 80% of the people. But the thing is, okay, so honey has glucose, right? And it's not keto friendly. It can kick us out of ketosis. And I've proven this. It does kick you out of ketosis. But to make this keto friendly, what you can do is you can do 1 tablespoon of raw, unfiltered organic honey. And it must be raw, by the way. I want to emphasize that. And 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, 8 ounces of warm water. And you can also add a tablespoon or 2 of coconut oil. So to keep it even more keto friendly, I would suggest, especially if you're not fat adapted yet, I would suggest half a tablespoon of raw unfiltered honey. And I feel like it works just the same as 1 tablespoon. So you can reduce the amount to half a tablespoon of raw unfiltered honey, and you can add in a tablespoon of coconut oil. And the macronutrients for that, it's about, I think it was 78% fat for that cocktail. So you can add coconut oil or MCT oil to the cocktail to make it keto friendly. But if you're, already keto adapted, then you can just probably use 1 tablespoon of raw unfiltered organic honey. Okay, and remember, it has to be raw honey. Cooking honey on high heats doesn't make it raw anymore. It's the raw component that seems to do the trick for the sleep. And there are also variations of this. So instead of the hot water, You can also use a tea, like a relaxing tea such as chamomile or valerian root. And if you are keto adapted, just taking the regular original recipe with the honey and the ACV, you should be back in ketosis in the morning. But that's if you are keto adapted. So you might actually wait for you to try this cocktail until you're keto adapted, actually. That's what I recommend. But if you really want to fix up your sleeping and you want to get good quality sleep, then try this out and add a lot of fats and oils. Add a lot of coconut oil to this. So try different combinations to see what works for me. And here's another little trick. So you can add herbal teas to this cocktail. So you can drink chamomile or peppermint or valerian root. And here is one of my favorite sleepy time, or one of my favorite sleep teas. It's called Sleepy Time Extra. It's a brand, and it contains chamomile, spearmint, and other soothing herbs, and it has added valerian. And I actually use this for the sleep cocktail. So instead of water, I dip this tea in, and then I add the honey, and I add the apple cider vinegar, and it has a greater relaxing effect. So it looks something like this. And it's very cheap, by the way. This packet is only like $4 or something. And here's another brand. This is called Nightly Calm by Twinnings. And so I'll give you more options on cocktails I can use. So I've heard really great things about Rescue Sleep. I've never used it myself, but I've heard really great things, and it has had success for a lot of people. But they are like these liquid melts, so it's supposed to be like this pill format that helps you to get more natural sleep. Okay, but inside these pills, these Rescue Sleep pills, I checked the labels, and it does have grape seed oil, which, you know, again, is bad for us. And the capsule shell also has tilapia gelatin, which we know that tilapia is the candy of the sea. So you might want to be, so this is just like a warning, right? So just watch out for that. Okay, other options to try in your sleep cocktails. Elderberry syrup. So I've done this in the past. You know, I've done everything in the past. I've done so many experiments on my body. But elderberry syrup especially helps with immunity and cold. So I take this whenever I'm sick. And it also helps tremendously with sleep, by the way. So if everything else doesn't work, try some of these options out. You can try elderberry syrup. You can try California poppy seeds. Or you can try soothing caramel bedtime tea. Or you can try peppermint tea and other herbal teas. But again, I'm not a doctor or anything, so please use at your own discretion. So the 80-20 is, just try the ACV with the raw honey. It's probably the healthiest and most natural. And just try that with maybe like the Sleepy Time Extra tea, and add some oils in there to keep it keto friendly. All right, action item number 7, another sleep hack. It's breathing. Breathing helps calm your body and mind, and to get your mind, prepare your mind to relax and to let everything go, to let those thoughts go while you are sleeping. So here's a simple little activity, exercise you can do before you go to sleep. It's called box breathing. And box breathing is actually used by Navy SEALs. They use this technique while amidst in the middle of a battlefield in live firefights, because it helps them to calm and to stay focused during high pressure. And you know what? If it's good enough for the Navy SEALs, then it's good enough for me. So box breathing, there is a great video on this from Mark Devine. He is a former Navy SEAL commander who takes you through this exercise and shows you how to do it properly. And I'll leave a link down to that below. You can just follow along. So, but it's very simple. So it goes like this: 5-second inhale, and this is all through your nose, by the way. You're inhaling through your nose in a big with your diaphragm and not your chest, with your belly expanding out as you inhale. So on the inhale, your belly expands out. So you want to do a 5-second inhale very slowly. And then you want to hold for 5 seconds. And then you want to exhale very slowly through your nose, very slowly for another 5 seconds. And then you want to do another 5-second hold after the exhale. So it creates like a box. Another name for this is called the square breathing, right? And just do this for 5 minutes. Do like 10 of these, and it'll help to relax and calm your mind. And you can increase the seconds here if you are, you have a bigger lung capacity. So you can do 6 seconds, 7 seconds, 8 seconds if you have a bigger lung capacity. So you are, again, slowly breathing through your nose, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the nose. And when inhaling, remember to expand your belly. You want to do a diaphragmatic breathing instead of the chest breathing. because with the belly type of breathing, you get more oxygen into the lungs. That's why singers and opera singers, they breathe through their diaphragm so that they get more oxygen into their lungs. And here's a longer video, by the way, from Mark Divine. And you can go watch either of these videos, and I'll leave links to both of those down below. Or here's an app that you can use. It's called Apnea Trainer app. You can find it both on Apple and Google Play Store. And it looks something like this. So it's just like a voice that counts down the timer for you. Tells you when to inhale, when to hold, when to exhale. So if you want something with instructions, with a voice telling you what to do, you can go and download these apps. I think it does cost like $1 or $2 for the apps. So if you want the free version, just watch the video on the box breathing. Okay, so here are just some of my final sleep tips, okay? Okay, so tip number 1 is don't eat 2 to 3 hours prior to sleeping, because digestion, it will really distract your body from using it to restore your body and mind. So instead of like repairing your body and mind for the next day, like your body will give its energy towards the digestion. Okay, so try to avoid any foods, especially a lot of food, before you go to sleep. And don't exercise 3 to 4 hours prior to sleep. And the thing with exercise is prior to exercise, your body temperature can remain high. So again, we want to drop our core body temperature instead of raising it. And studies have shown that exercise in the morning can lead to better deep sleep at night. Yeah, so there was a study shown that compared 2 groups. One group, they had no exercise in the morning, and the other group had high intensity exercise in the morning. And the group that had the exercise in the morning tended to get a lot more deep sleep than the one without the exercise. So try to schedule your exercise in the morning. Of course, it also helps activate your brain if you exercise in the morning too. And I will be covering that in the exercise module. All right, sleep tip number 3, try sleeping on your side. If you can't sleep, or if you have trouble sleeping upwards, then try sleeping on your side. So there's not like an exact science for this yet. But there's a study shown in like monkeys and like hunter-gatherer tribes that show that most of these people and these animals, in the case of monkeys, they tend to sleep on their sides, and that helps them to stay asleep. So there has to be more studies on this, but if you can't really sleep, try sleeping on your side, because that might be a natural way that we are designed to be able to sleep. And tip number 4, this is a weird tip, like as if the other tips weren't weird, but you can try raising the head of your bed by 6 inches. Meaning the area where your head goes, you can try raising that and inclining that by 6 inches by placing like a piece of wood or books or a brick on that side. Because the thing is, it can help your blood flow and it helps brain cleanse itself. Remember, I talked about the glymphatic system, which is like your brain cleansing itself through a special liquid, and it's supposed to be detoxifying everything in your brain, and it happens only at night, only when you are asleep. So by placing that brick or that block of wood on the head of your bed, it can actually have gravity assist in that detoxifying of the fluids. And their studies show that animals, usually when they sleep, they find a hill to sleep on, like slightly raised, right? So really, it can help with the detoxifying of those fluids at night. And it helps with the elimination of toxins from the brain. And so the gravity is used to assist that cleanse. All right, tip number 5, you can try rolling out your muscles. It can help with the relaxation of your muscles, your bodies, and of course your mind too. And this is a tip from Tim Ferriss and Amelia Boone. But you can use like a rolling ball, or you can also use any other rollers to roll out any other parts of your muscle. But here's a small little thing. It's a very portable thing at that. It's a rubs device, and you can roll out your feet. So you take one of these things, and you can just stand on these, and you can just roll out the muscles on the bottom of your feet. And the feet is associated with like a lot of our bodily functions, because we are on our feet most of the time during the days. So if you release like those muscles inside your feet, it's really helping you to relax the rest of your body as well. And so it's very cheap, by the way. It's only like $7, and it can really help relax you and prepare you to get into sleep. All right, and this is not really a sleeping tip, but you can make your bed in the morning. By making your bed in the morning, it creates sort of like this order inside of your life. And I'm going to cover this very soon, but a messy bed in a messy room, in a messy environment, creates a messy mind. So just the simple fact of making your bed in the morning can create a big momentum throughout the day. Because there's a saying that goes, win the morning and you win the day. So just like that simple act of making your bed in the morning can create a cascade of effect, positive effect that can last throughout the day. So try making your bed in the morning. I do this every morning. It's no big deal. And it only takes 20 seconds to make my bed. And it's a big habit of mine now. I never leave without making my bed. Actually, it's automatic. I don't even think about it anymore. I just automatically make my bed right when I wake up. Again, so you win the morning, you win the day. And plus, you have a nice little bed to come home to. It's all nicely made for you and organized for you. All right, so let's talk about the holy grail for sleep that I have found. And it's not necessarily to hack your sleep, or it kind of is, but the holy grail for sleep tracking and keeping track of your sleep and seeing your sleep as objectively as possible. Because we all think on a subjective view that we are getting good and adequate amounts of sleep. But if we take an objective view of this, our sleep patterns might be really different than what we personally thought it was. So the holy grail for now, by the way, is the Oura ring. And I've mentioned this many, many times, but seriously, this is a big eye-opener for me. This device was worth every single penny. So it looks something like this. And this is Oura Ring version 2. And it's a great, fantastic little device. And it even looks great. It looks, like a stylish type of ring. And so it's not required for the program, but it is really, really highly, highly recommended. I cannot praise this thing enough. Because it really raises your awareness of sleep and how much deep sleep you are getting. And just by buying this thing, it can help increase your deep sleep. And it really creates that conscious awareness of your sleep. So you can find actual correlations between your deep sleep, your REM sleep, and the behaviors that you're doing. So for example, you can notice with this ring that, if I set my temperature to 18 degrees, I seem to get 1.5 hours of deep sleep. You can make those correlations now because this is such an accurate tracker of deep and REM sleep. So this is really, really highly recommended. And everyone I know, seriously, everyone I know praises this ring. And I think it helped sleep, or everybody with this ring that I know of has improved their sleep. I don't think there's a single person that I know that got this ring and did not increase their sleep. So this is really recommended. It is a little costly. I mean, it does cost $300, but you can get it for $250 with a special link. But I think it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. It helps to improve sleep quality and become cognizant of what gives you good or bad sleep. And seriously, it's the most accurate sleep tracker I know, and you really get an objective view on sleep rather than guessing how much you slept. And then look, even Matthew Walker wears one, all right? And this guy is a sleep scientist, right? He's a sleep genius. Okay, so again, it's $300 plus $250 with the coupon. And you can buy one directly on auraring.com. So when you get the ring, there are a few different styles to this. So there's a silver one, the black one, and then the stealth one. I wouldn't get the stealth one just because it has a different look to it. I think it's a matte black. And it has no other benefits. It's just a different, more stylish look, I guess. I personally have just the black one. And so that's what I suggest for you too. And they have two different styles. One is a flatter version right there, and one has a pointier version. And you can choose amongst those two. So like I said, there's the balanced one, the pointier version, and heritage, which is the flatter version. I have the heritage one. And when you get the ring, actually it takes a few weeks for you to get the actual ring. First, they're going to send you this ring sizing kit. And so you can try out the ring or these different sizes to see which one you are comfortable with. So they send you this first, and then they let you decide what size you want your ring in. And so you go back to the website and then you type in the size that you want after trying out these rings. But here's a little tip. From my experience anyway, the ring comes a little bit bigger. The actual Oura ring is a little bit bigger. So I think I started off with, size 8 or something. And I wanted to fit inside my left ring finger. But when I got the actual ring size was a little bit bigger. So it wasn't able to fit snugly on my ring finger. So I actually had to switch my ring or switch my finger to the middle finger. So it does come a little bit larger in my experience. So just keep that in mind when you are ordering your ring. And also the hand is different. So like the ring on my left hand, or like the current size of my ring, will fit on the middle finger of my left ring, but it won't fit on the middle finger of my right ring. So just keep that in mind. I like to keep it on my left hand because I do less stuff with my left hand and I do more stuff with my right hand, and I don't want the ring to get in the way of things that I'm doing. But that's just my personal preference. And the Oura ring, by the way, also comes with an amazing app. I use this thing every day. So I know I want you to get away from, like the social media and these apps as much as possible. But this is an app that can really help with your productivity. It helps with your sleep, which helps with your focus the next day, right? So it comes with this awesome app, and it shows you like your sleep score, your sleep efficiency, your total sleep, your restfulness, your REM sleep and deep sleep, and everything. It is crazy. And it's also crazy how accurate this ring is. So I did an experiment. I wanted to see how accurate this ring was, right? So I set my alarm to, I don't know, I think it was like 7 a.m. And I wanted to see how accurate the ring was. So I told myself, okay, exactly when my alarm rings at 7 a.m., I will get up no matter what. And so I put on the ring and I went to sleep. Exactly when the alarm rang, I woke up, right? I woke up right away. And then I synced it with the app to see how accurate the ring was. And it showed that I woke up at exactly 7:01 a.m. So I was like, wow, this is pretty damn accurate. I mean, it was a minute off, to be fair, but it was pretty damn accurate. So yeah, I mean, I love this thing. It's so accurate. It tracks your deep sleep, your REM sleep, the times where you woke up in the middle of the night, so you can become cognizant of, okay, like, why am I waking up in the middle of the night? Like, what could it be? And so you try to make like these ties, associations between, okay, let me try to reduce my coffee intake and see what that does to my sleep during the night. So it's an incredible thing. And it also gives you like this readiness score to see, like how much efficient power you can get throughout the day with the amount of sleep you got last night. And this counts in like your sleep, it counts in your heart rate and your body temperature, and also your activity. It can also track your steps or the exercise that you're getting. But sometimes actually the ring gets in the way. So for example, if you're like weight training, for example, if you're lifting weights, the ring can get in the way of that. So I just take my ring off during those moments. But it also tracks your body temperature. So there was a moment where my body temperature was really high and the ring detected that. And I was like, that's weird. Why is my body temperature high? And the next day, I actually got sick. So it actually predicted that I was going to be sick the next day. So, I mean, this ring is pretty damn accurate and incredible. So it actually predicted that I was going to be sick by measuring my body temperature. So it can do like all sorts of stuff. So like it can, measure your health, your activity levels, your body temperature, and your resting heart rate. And it also comes with a wireless charger. And the battery lasts pretty damn long, actually. It lasts about 3 to 5 days. And it charges really quickly. So the wireless charger just looks like this. So you just set it on there and it charges in, I would say, like an hour. And it lasts pretty long. I would say it lasts about 5 days. But I do have to charge it like twice a week. But it does last quite a bit. And it does come with the option of an airplane mode. So you can set it on airplane mode if you think that, electromagnetics interfere with like your mind and everything. And it doesn't interfere with sleep, and it'll still keep track of everything, even on airplane mode. And so not a lot of people know about this, even though they might have the Oura ring, but there's actually a website that you can go to that tracks everything. And you can see like the bigger trend of everything. And it gives you like a bigger picture than the actual app does. You can go to cloud.oura.com and you can see like the bigger picture of everything. You can see like your trends for months. And you can also see like some other measurements that you can't really see in the app. So you can see like your average resting heart rate. You can see like your trends from the last few months or even the last year if you want. So you can see like your average amount of steps that you take a day or the average amount of sleep that you get. And so all in all, this is really a great investment. It really is. And okay, so let's get to action item number 10. And this is the final one. So we're going to start tracking our sleep. Even if you have the Oura ring or not, you can also use your phone. Okay, there are sleep apps on the phone. And the one that I find, I used this in the past, and I've used many apps in the past as well. I've used Sleep Cycle. I think I've used another one called Pillow. I didn't really like the Pillow one. I felt like that wasn't really accurate because there were times where I was awake in the middle of the night and it thought that I was sleeping. So yeah, so you can try the Sleep Cycle one. This is the one that I've been, I guess, most successful with. So it's available on both Android and iPhone, and it's free. So you can download that if you don't have the Oura Ring. So what we're going to do is we're going to track our hours again, our attention tracker. We're going to use that again. And we're going to do this for another 7 days. So every 30 minutes, we're going to write down where our attention went. If it's on social media, we write down social media. If it's we are focusing, then we write down flow hours, right? So we want to find correlations now with focus and with sleep. And of course, how much progress we have gotten in our focus power. Okay, so you really want to try to improve from last time. So take a look at your week 1 of your attention tracker and try to improve upon your focus power. Try to improve upon your flow hours, and also try to improve your sleep. And you can look out for correlations with sleep and your focus. And so we want to write down the flow hours that we get and the sleep. So we want to make big correlations here. You can also write down your REM, your deep, your sleep score if you're using the Oura Ring, your readiness score, and your feeling, how you felt during the day with that amount of sleep. So for example, you can say, I felt really great, like a 9 out of 10 with 9 hours of sleep. And you can write down how much flow hours you got from 9 hours of sleep. So you can actually prove to yourself that good sleep improves your flow hours. And I will show you, let me show you how to set this up and how you can implement using the attention hours with sleep. Okay, here we are in the attention hours. And as usual, you want to keep track of your attention following these categories, right? So let's just pretend that I got some flow hours in right here, flow, and it will automatically calculate that, right? And you want to place sleep before your day. Remember this, right? So sleep, let's say I got that amount of sleep, and it will refresh again. And so you really want to try to correlate, okay, 7 hours gives me about 2.5 hours of flows. Or you can say 9 hours gives me even more flow hours. So you can start making connections, drawing conclusions from this thing. And you can also put in your REM sleep. So let's say, for example, I got 2 hours of REM sleep and 1.5 hours of deep sleep. And you can also put in your sleep score that you get from your Oura Ring, and also your readiness score. So the readiness score I would take with a little grain of salt, because I like to remove my ring sometimes during exercise, especially if I'm doing weight training, because it gets in the way. So I would take this with a little bit grain of salt. I would rely on this a little bit more. But of course, if you're not taking off your ring, you can go with this readiness score. And you can also put in your flow GKI too. So if, for example, you want to measure your ketone levels as well, and you can see how all of this correlates to this number right here, right? Because we really want to increase this number. That's the main point of this, to increase our flow levels, increase our flow hours. And you can write down how you felt. Okay, 7 hours of sleep. Okay, now let's do a 7. 7 hours of sleep gave me a feeling of about 7. And you can also write notes here. So let's say I only got 7 hours of sleep, maybe because it was my caffeine or something. I had a lot of caffeine the day before, and it led to only 7 hours of sleep. So you can write down notes too. So yeah, you can see the overall picture on how sleep, REM sleep, and deep sleep affects your flow. So this can be a very big, eye-opening process, especially if you get the Oura Ring, but of course you don't have to. But yeah, so try to look for some correlations and absolutely try to increase your flow hours for this week, right? You want to beat out your week 1 hours. So try to increase that and also try to increase your sleep. Okay, so let's get back into the lesson. Okay, so start tracking your attention hours once again and try to improve on all the good parts. So you want to try to improve on your flow hours, your positive hours, and you want to try to reduce your neutral hours and your distraction hours compared to your week 1 results. Okay, and so I would like to leave you off with this. In the world of focus and productivity, sleep is king. So please try to get as much sleep as possible, because really sleep is the foundational element of focus. So that is it for this lesson. I hope you have learned a ton, and please execute on this. Please knock down those action items, and let's get you moving forward in life. That's it. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next module. Take care.